I'm in the middle of a life transition at this point in time where what I did for work for 2 years now is taking a sidestep. It's not a step forwards or a step backwards. At this point in time, it is literally just a sidestep. But that naturally calls into question existential questions, topics around meaning, around purpose. And this is, as a philosophy teacher, something that I help out with clients and with students a lot. And it always takes on a bit of a different flavor when you go through this yourself rather than just read about it or rather than just talk about it. And I've caught myself at this point in time in a bit of a paradox, bit of a dilemma where what I know that I want to do is to self-actualize. I want to reach higher and higher on Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I want to reach upwards, but I'm aware that part of the paradox with this is that to self-actualize is at the same time the same thing as to self-transcend. I can't find purpose just in my own head. I can't think my way to a purpose. It doesn't really make sense. The way I am going to find purpose is out in the world. It's doing things. It's being of service to other people. And from that, realizing and integrating those elements into my personality, which are of direct service. And that's the whole point of philosophy, at least in an ancient sense. It's not just an intellectual exercise of what should I do, shouldn't I do in this random hypothetical situation. It's practical. It's if I can consider myself to be this type of person, what should I do about it? And I'm finding myself in that moment at this point in time. It's very much in line with Viktor Frankl's ideas of different types of values. It's not so much a creation value, which is the first way that he typically talks about this. It's not about me creating something necessarily. It's not even in his second way when we talk about the experiential side of things. I can learn something about myself through an experience and as a result understand what I value through that. But it's not even necessarily that second point. It's the more fundamental third point, which is my attitude towards it. It's an attitudinal value. There can be situations in my life where the creative aspect is taken away from me and also the experience side is taken away from me. But what can never, ever be taken away from me is the attitudinal aspect of this, which is how, given that confrontation, given that limitation, I meet that challenge. Who am I to meet that challenge in the real world? And I found myself at that point in time where I naturally have got these questions in my head about where is it that I'm going? What is it that I'm doing? I've got pretty clear ideas in that, and within the creative element of that, there is definitely a push that I'm heading towards. There's an experiential element recording this in the woods at this point in time. There's this lovely, calm, serene atmosphere. So even from the experience of just the act of recording this, I'm learning something about myself in the fact that I know what different parts of my body feel like and where the tension resides at the different parts. But throughout all this, I'm rooting it all the way back down to this attitudinal value. I'm rooting it back in terms of who am I to meet this challenge? It's not what is my purpose, it's who am I as a person to even ask that question to begin with. So that's why, as a result of all this, to go back to this self-actualization point that I started with, if I want to become who I need to become, I can't just sit here and figure that out in my head on my own. I've got to be out in the world practicing this philosophy as a way of life rather than just as a thought process. And within that, I'll learn, and I know this intellectually, but I'll learn that to self-actualize is to self-transcend, because I'll find who I am in service of the community, because I am a part of that community. I'm not just a whole and complete in myself. I'm a whole and a part, very much in the line with Ken Wilber's ideas of holons. I'm not just a part of a community. I'm not just a whole in myself. I'm a whole part. I'm both of them at the same time, and I've got to keep that tension in balance. And naturally, a lot of these existential questions turn up when you go from one period to another. There was tension in this first period, and there's going to be tension in the second period, but I'm in this strange liminal space at this point in time where I'm figuring out what that type of tension is going to be that I learn to let go of, and what is this new type of tension that I need to contend with and to confront. So, as I'm considering a lot of this, I appreciate there might be people online who are thinking in similar ways and going from maybe one part of their life to another part of their life, or not being quite sure where they are, or trying to find purpose but not knowing where to look. The best place to look is, instead of inside yourself to find who you are, it's outside yourself to find who you are. And at the very least, even if you aren't quite sure about what you're going to find, that might not even necessarily be the question. It's, who are you to find what you're trying to find? Who is the person underneath that asks that question of, who am I? So this is definitely going to be something that I'll return to at another stage. But for now, in terms of this ancient philosophical idea of keeping it practical and doing something with it rather than just thinking about it, just keep it simple. For now, what is it that I can create in terms of a value? If that's not possible, what is it that I can experience to learn more about myself? And what values can I learn from that? But more fundamentally, what is the attitude that I'm meeting the world with? And if that isn't quite where I want it to be, what specific parts of me need to adapt and be integrated so that I can have that attitudinal value that I'm seeking at this point in time?